All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today for the legal table. I was just going to wait one more minute just to make sure that we had enough people coming in here, the people, so we didn't have any people trickling in. But I'll just wait one more minute here. Just get these last couple people invited in. Let's see. All right. Perfect. Okay, so thank you for coming in today and welcome to the legal table. I'm your host, Crystal Jamerson, and I'm the Community Engagement and Outreach Coordinator for Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota. We have created the legal table to be able to educate you on your rights and responsibilities, along with introduce you to community organizations that have resources to help you along the way. Today, we are here to address some new housing laws, homelessness in the area, and also housing advocacy in Minnesota. Uh, we know that with the uptick of evictions in the state of Minnesota, it's great to know what your rights are, and then also the resources that are available in the area to assist you. So we're hoping to bring you more information on many civil law topics throughout the year. So make sure to continue to join with us and pass along the information to your coworkers and to your clients. And with that being said, I also want to introduce our special guest today. And I apologize if I pronounce anyone's name wrong, please make sure to correct me. So today from Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota, we have Heidi Euchre. We also have Pastor Sue Kosterman from from Churches United. And then we have Chelsea Martin, and she's from Oak Tree Services. So with that, I just want to also announce just a few house rules really quick, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Please make sure to put all of your questions in the chat, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. We'll make sure to address them, and that way we'll help to try to keep this to just about an hour long for everybody. Also, because this is just a shorter meeting, if you'd like more information, each panelist will have their information listed at the end so that you're able to contact them if you need to. And then this meeting will also be available on the YouTube channel by the end of the week. So if you have any coworkers that are unable to make it, or if you just want to come back to reference some of the material, you're able to do that. Alrighty, and with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Heidi from Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I love this new little thing that Crystal has developed. I, in the past 19 years, have done a lot of housing law as an attorney in our Moorhead office. And so this year was especially exciting because our legislature in Minnesota passed a number of new laws which add protections for tenants renting in our state. The time we have here won't allow me to cover all of them at all or even go much into depth. That's how many there are. However, I did want to give just a very brief overview of some of the most important law changes that I think our mutual clients and tenants in general probably encounter on a regular basis. And most of these laws took effect on January 1st of this year. So keep in mind that they are current as of today. So the first change is that in the past, Minnesota didn't require any notice whatsoever before an eviction was filed for non-payment of rent. However, now the law is that landlords have to issue a 14-day written notice before filing of that eviction. Again, it's for non-payment of rent. That notice has to state how much is owed, And the real protection I see there for tenants is that that will give them more time to contact the agencies that we work with to see about financial assistance. The past law was that when they filed an eviction, no notice, and that eviction could take place in as soon as 7 days. And so this will technically give them more like 3 weeks of time versus 7 days of time to try to reach out and gather some financial resources. They also did a reform on the eviction expungement. In the past, you had to file a separate petition and ask the court that it be expunged and prove to the court that you either won the case or that you would benefit more by having it expunged than the society's right to know about it. However, there's some now in place where if the agreement says that it can be expunged, it can be expunged immediately. Also, they will now start to expunge any evictions that are 3 years or older. Now, I will tell you, I'm not sure that the courts have actually figured out how they're going to do this yet. And so I think that's probably a good thing I could say before each and every one of these, because they're new, they're unused laws, they're untested. And courts are already applying some of them a little bit differently. But what I can tell you, if you or someone you're working with has an eviction that's on their record that's over 3 years old and nothing's been done on it, I think that our office could help that process go quicker just by calling that particular case to the attention of court administration. The legislature also expanded the privacy rights and the notice required to enter a unit. In the past, it only said reasonable notice, which was really up in the air for what it could be or what it might be, and didn't really give a lot of guideline. However, now the law indicates that landlords must give a minimum of 24 hours notice before entering the person's unit. So it really applies more solid guidelines for landlords and tenants in those situations. I just want to mention this, although I'm not going to go into the language of it. There is now a way to end your lease due to medical issues. What I will say here is that if you or your organization would like a deeper dive into all of this and would like a training that's a couple of hours long, feel free to contact Crystal and she can maybe get that set up for you, because I realize this is a very quick and brief overview. The other thing I wanted to mention is that effective in August already of 23, there became a right to counsel, sort of like a public defender, for breach of lease cases where evictions are filed and the tenant lives in public housing. That's a huge change. There is only couple other areas of law in which that are civil that there is a right to counsel. And so the legislature has acknowledged how important housing is and the loss of housing is, and has said that they now have a right to counsel if they're in public housing. There is also a new rule where the tenant have a right to request both a move-in and move-out inspection. Minnesota didn't have any requirement of that whatsoever. And it really led to a lot of issues with returns of security deposit. And so I'm hoping with this law, there'll be more things in writing about the issues that existed at the beginning of the tenancy, so that there's less security deposit money being taken. And so I think it's really important to pass the information along to ask their tenants to request this. And of course, I will very briefly mention this. There is a vast overhaul to the laws about cannabis possession and use that have trickled into the landlord-tenant law to reflect the changes in the actual criminal statute. So what I would say is that if you have someone who's using medical marijuana, they may want to consult personally on the specific facts of their case, if they need to continue to use that in their rental unit, because this is a really untested area of the law. And so we would want to make sure and do that right for the tenant. But, you know, in most private landlord situations, they're not going to be prohibited from the use of medical marijuana in their rental unit anymore. However, if we're talking about federally subsidized units, that's where the biggest thing remains to be seen as to how this law is enacted, because as some of you might know, cannabis still remains, I believe, a Schedule II drug and illegal under federal law. And so because federal assistance and money is tied to some of those units, we're not really sure exactly how that's going to be enforced and interpreted by the courts at this time. But the state legislature has, recognized that as a requirement and something that's important to people using it for medical purposes. So I think that, we want to make sure and try to help people who have those needs remain in their units. And so there are several other changes, and I know I briefly went through them, but I wanted to just kind of get these in your mind a little bit so that everybody can start identifying when there might be an issue with themselves or someone else they're talking to. And again, I would say that Crystal could set up a longer training on some of these topics or all of these topics. In addition, if you have a specific question and you're a low-income tenant in Minnesota, you can contact our office to get a consultation with an advocate. Our phone number is 218-233-8585. And in general, if you qualify for our services, you would get a same-day consultation. If you are a service provider or an organizational person who has questions, you can email me directly. I'm happy to chat or help you help others. As I kind of always say, I always think that you guys are some of the best people to have in our lives, because our word spreads further and wider because you're so dedicated and are always wanting to learn the things that do make our mutual clients better and more successful. And so because of the short time, my time is almost up, so I do want to pass it along to the next speaker, but Crystal has reserved some time at the end. If you have specific questions, jot them down. You could maybe even put them in the chat. And at the end, Crystal can pipe in with some of those questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heidi. I appreciate that. And yes, we will have a slide at the end that will have all of our guests' current information and websites so that you are able to further contact our clients. The next up to the panel is Pastor Sue from Churches United. Thank you so much for coming in today, and I'll key it up to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Crystal. I'm just starting the timer on my phone so I can keep track of the time here. So I'm Pastor Sue Kesterman. I serve as the Chief Executive Officer for Churches United for the Homeless in Moorhead. And I want to talk about each of the three areas in which we provide service. And then I'll just touch on the fourth leg of our mission statement, because the fourth leg really contains everything that we do in it. So we provide safe shelter, stable housing, nutritious food, and a path to healing for our neighbors in the Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo community and the near region. And so that path to healing really is everything that we do. And so we provide safe shelter at two shelters. We operate Micah's Mission on First Avenue North in Moorhead, across the street from the Coca-Cola bottling plant. Micah's Mission serves men and women and families experiencing homelessness. And we are just finishing now a major renovation to the building, which we are so excited about. And part of the renovation is allowing us to add 8 family rooms down in the basement of the building. We've never been able to utilize the basement of this building for shelter or for offices. And so this is very exciting for us. We've also just completely renovated the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. The building has been re-roofed. It's just a much more comfortable place to be. And I encourage you to reach out to me if you want to come and do a tour will be complete in the building by the end of next week with everything that we're doing. So that's very exciting for us. We also operate the Dorothy Day House in Moorhead. That is the smallest shelter in the community, men's only, 16 beds. The Dorothy Day House also is the only shelter in the community that can provide shelter to a man who is on the sex offender registry. And so we feel like that's a very important part of what we do. Related to shelter, just some things to kind of highlight in what we do. We are low barrier in the services that we offer. That has not always been the case for Churches United, but we don't require sobriety as a condition for stay. We don't artificially time limit length of stay. We recognize the particularity of homelessness, right? That every individual or household that is experiencing homelessness has their own particular circumstances and their own particular barriers. And so we just work with each individual and each household according to the particularity of their needs and barriers. We also provide stable housing. We have some really exciting things to talk about on that front. We opened the Bright Sky Apartments in March of 2018. Bright Sky provides 43 units of permanent supportive housing. 22 of the units are efficiencies or 1 bedrooms. 21 of the units are 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms. And one of the things that we are most excited about at Bright Sky is that effective November 1st, we were able to bring property management under our own umbrella. At the time that we opened Bright Sky, we didn't have enough heft in the organization to provide the necessary degree of separation between property management and case management. And Bright Sky is permanent supportive housing, right? Housing with robust supports. And so we needed to be able to ensure that there was the required distance between whoever's doing property management and whoever is providing case management, whether that is a member of our Churches United team or a case manager with an outside agency. And we now have enough heft as an organization that we were able to do that. And so the thing that we're most excited about is that allows us to have the ethos that guides our property management well aligned with the ethos that guides the rest of how Churches United provides its services. That is low barrier, person-centered, and according to best practices in the field. And so we're very excited about that. By the end of January, we will have closed on financing for a new permanent supportive housing building. That will be Silver Linings Apartments, and Silver Linings will provide 36 units of permanent supportive housing for seniors 55 and older who have experienced homelessness or housing instability chronically. We expect to break ground at Silver Linings when spring comes, hopefully by the end of March, depending on how the rest of the winter is. And then we expect that the first tenants will move into Silver Linings towards the end of the first quarter in 2025. So we're very, very excited about that. And then the final thing that we do in terms of service delivery is we provide nutritious food. And we provide that across a number of locations. At Micah's Mission, we are open again 365 days a year. The community center is open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. and we serve 2 hot meals a day, 7 days a week. And that enables people who are part of the broader community to come in and get a hot meal. It looks like we will have served somewhere around 230,000 hot meals during the course of 2023. We also provide hot meals, of course, at Dorothy Day House, and some meals for community members who come in to access Dorothy Day House for laundry or shower services. The Bright Sky Apartments has a food pantry that's part of the building, and Silver Linings will have a food pantry as well. But we also operate 2 full-service food pantries, the Dorothy Day Food Pantry in Moorhead and the Dorothy Day West Food Pantry in West Fargo. Both of those food pantries are consumer choice model pantries, which means that people who need to access nutrition support are able to come and select the items off the shelf that their household will use. We've also, in the last several months, moved to a model where households are given a certain number of credits that they can spend during the course of the month. And we don't limit the number of times a household can come to the food pantry, provided that they have credits to spend. And we just want to make the experience of going to a food pantry as much like going to the grocery store as we possibly can. We're also working with some of our community partners to provide SNAP outreach and general assistance outreach, so that people who access the pantries who may qualify for SNAP or other general assistance type programs have the opportunity to connect with someone while they're at the food pantry to help them fill that out. We have also had a legal kiosk at the Moorhead Pantry, and we are in the process of working towards having a free clinic available at the West Fargo Pantry. And so more and more, we're looking at how can our pantries function like community hubs and less like, here's your box of food that somebody else picked out for you. We also work very closely with Sanford Health. We have shelter nurses at our shelters, and a shelter nurse that's stationed at Bright Sky, and we expect to have a shelter nurse at Silver Linings when that is open. We have case managers at each of our locations, with the exception of the food pantries. And so we are housing first and housing focused in everything that we do. And I think that is the quick, that's the quick overview, and I'm anxious for questions later. I'll pass it back to Crystal.
Thank you so much, Sue. That was amazing and so much great information for our community members. We are going to pass the mic over to Chelsea from Oak Tree Services.
All right. Hello, I am Chelsea Martin. I'm the housing director here at Oak Tree Support Services. We provide 2 housing focused services, one of them being housing stabilization services. This is a 2-part service that replaced what was formerly HAC, if anyone is aware of that service. So housing stabilization services focuses on obtaining and maintaining housing through transition and sustain. Individuals who are utilizing transition services are going to receive assistance with things like barrier alleviation, expungement. We can assist with actual physical searching for housing, going to look at the properties, applying for housing, going to get your driver's license if your driver's license is up for renewal, helping to assist to look for deposits and movers and everything that goes into housing outside of physically, or looking for housing outside of physically moving boxes from point A to point B. We can be there as a support throughout every capacity in a person-centered manner. Sustain then comes in once they've obtained that housing, and we help them to maintain through lease compliance, getting to know the community, something that sounds as simple as getting to know the walking paths in their new neighborhood. We can take someone out to explore those, build that comfortability so that they don't have to go alone for the first time, helping to make sure that rent is staying up to date, that utilities are up to date. We're making sure that we're maintaining that lease compliance through maybe looking at our chore chart and ensuring that we're keeping things clean and staying on task with our day-to-day activities that help us maintain that housing, even like grocery shopping or going to the food shelf, finding a food shelf, or finding and applying for SNAP or other benefits. Also continuing to apply for MA when that comes up, or any renewal for medical insurance and those types of things. It is such a broad service across the board, from the day that they come on needing that support to finding housing to helping them through ensuring that they maintain that housing. It is a service that can be renewed every year. There are a few qualifications. Individuals must be over the age of 18. They have to be on MA. And they have to have a documentable disability. That can be anything from stress or anxiety to a physical impairment that may be had, that could be temporary, or it could be a permanent disability that someone might have. So it can be very, very broad as well there, even addiction, anything. It is such a broad service that can be provided. It's just getting out to those individuals and letting them know that they are eligible and then helping them through the process of getting approval. It is ran by the Department of Human Services, so we operate within their qualifications and ensure that we are abiding by their policies and procedures, and we just do it in as person-centered of a manner as possible. There is a requirement for individuals to be face-to-face with the person that's providing them support, a minimum of 20% of the month. It just helps to ensure that everyone's on track, that we are able to see each other, connect, know that they are well. A big thing about some of services, especially during COVID, when everything was a lot more remote, having that distance between the person served and the person providing the support is really detrimental to the well-being. I think that it's very, very isolating, the fear of living in independent housing or losing that independent housing. So it just really helps to keep us on track and maintain the rapport and the comfortability for someone to be able to say, I'm behind, we address it right away. If they get behind on rent or if they get behind on a utility, that consistency helps to ensure that we're not getting to the point of we're going to be evicted in 14 days and we need to come up with $1,000. It's a lot easier when we know from the get-go. And so that consistency definitely is something we find to be very supportive and beneficial. The other side of once they are getting established is a service called Transitional Moving Services. This is a strictly waivered service, so individuals must be on a waiver to utilize it. What that does is that it allows them to have a budget for furniture, household goods, physical movers, and deposit. They are very large expenses that are hard for someone who is already struggling with maintaining or obtaining housing to achieve. So it's a nice option for people to have available. There definitely are improvements that the service could have. We are actively working with legislators to see these changes made. We were able to petition and get MSSA behind us as well. So we're hoping to see that those changes can be there. There has been no increase to the funds since 2005. So think of what a couch cost you then and what a couch costs you now. People are not able to get what they need. You cannot get someone moved and furnish their home with $3,000. It's just not possible. And those additional funds are very difficult for the person served to come up with at times. And so are they going to eat dinner on the floor or are they going to sleep on the floor? It's such an unfair toss-up for them to be in. But it is able to give some support in those deposits or the movers. So what happens is if a person needs the assistance with a deposit or movers or furniture, household goods, they're able to connect with us and we're able to front those fees to ensure that they can get those things. And then we work with DHS on the background for the reimbursement of those items. So it's able to get them as much of what we can with what they've got. Again, it is funded and ran by DHS. So there are restrictions that we see as a provider, but there are not enough protections in place as well for the person served. So that's where a lot of the advocacy with legislators comes from, is just ensuring that those funds are given to the person served and able to be spent how they need them to be spent. There's restrictions on if you're getting furniture and household goods, you only get $500 of deposit support. Or if you're just getting movers, you can have $1,000, where those limitations, when the funds are there, they should be able to be spent on that person. When they only get to use it once every 3 years, they should be able to use that full budget. So just finding ways to make it as person-centered as possible. But they are there. They are still good services, and HSS is definitely something that we have seen a lot of people renewing and staying on to have that stability once they are into their housing with Sustain. If you do have any questions, again, I know at the end that will be there. I will say that Sustain is very comparable to that of IHS, if anyone's aware of that service, just minus the medical capacity of it. So it's a really, really great service. It's something that really helps to break down those barriers while maintaining a lot of independence, because they're in the driver's seat and we're just in the passenger. So it gives the person the steering wheel, lets them make the decisions, and we're just there to give the support and the resources. So coming to things like this, we're able to bring back and have firsthand, we could connect them with attorneys or with these legal updates, and takes the weight off of their shoulders of having to do all of the legwork of obtaining all of this massive information while just trying to get somewhere that they can breathe and sleep at night. So we're just a good right-hand man is how I describe us. And that's all I've got until the end, if there are questions, I should say.
Well, thank you very much, Chelsea. That was very informative. I just want to thank all of our guests today. If anyone has questions, I know there's a couple of questions in the chat box, but feel free to start throwing your questions in there. And so the first question I wanted to do, I did have this for Heidi. So if a person, let's see, if a person needs to find out more information on laws, rights, and responsibilities, is there a good website where they're able to go?
People put in the chat already. Can you hear me, Crystal?
Yes.
Okay, you signed. So as a couple of people have put in the chat, Homeline, so it's homelinemn.org is a wonderful resource. There is also lawhelpmn.org is another wonderful resource with handbooks and fact sheets. For a beginner, I would definitely say lawhelpmn.org. They have separate fact sheets on each topic, which are searchable, and they're very clear and concise. If you want to take a real deep dive, Homeline has a lot of pre-recorded or recorded CLEs that you can watch for free about all of the law changes. It will take about 7+ hours for you to do it, but it's amazing. They also have some summaries. And so those really are the two best places that I could send you if you're looking for information about the landlord-tenant law specifically.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And we also have another one that came into the chat to me for Pastor Sue. They wanted to know what is the application process for the housing? Should it be given? Should it be referred by case managers, or are they able to walk in? What should they do?
So at Bright Sky Apartments, and then as well at Silver Linings, when it is open, we work through coordinated entry. And so we don't hold any of the vouchers. Churches United doesn't hold vouchers. And so we work through coordinated entry. And when we have an open unit, for instance, we communicate that with the coordinated entry manager. And then there's a matching process between who has vouchers and who has openings. Does that answer that question?
I believe so. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Our next one goes to Chelsea, and it said, what service area do you serve?
We are a statewide provider. We have active coordinators in everywhere from the Wadena area, Mankato, Moorhead, heavily in the Twin Cities, out to like Anoka County, Forest Lake. We do have areas that we're building, so our caseloads are a little bit smaller up there, and the staff are part-time, so there is sometimes a delay in getting services started. We'll always give as much of a heads up as we can, but unfortunately those things do happen. But so in Scott County as well, so we're touching almost all of the corners, but we are able to offer services statewide. The in-person component is where it can be guaranteed in Wadena, Mankato, Moorhead, all of the Twin Cities and local suburbs area.
Perfect. Thank you for that. As you know, Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota, we serve 22 counties, and many of the counties that you serve are located within your service area. So that's really great to know that a lot of our community partners that may be on the line today would be able to use your services because they do coincide. Our next question that we have goes to, let's see, we had another one for Heidi. It was in regards to, let's see, if people needed legal forms to be able to fill out on their own, is there a place that they go, or can they do that on the kiosk?
There are some kiosks in which they can. Also, almost every courthouse in Minnesota has a law library in which you can print them for free. There is, if you go to the court's website, let me just find that for you because I don't know it off the hand. Okay, so it's mncourts.gov. And there is a link that you would click at the top, which is Get Forms. All of the available forms are there. In addition, we are happy for people to contact us, and we can email forms to people if they have the ability to print them. But if they need help printing them, we suggest they go to their local courthouse, a legal kiosk in which you can print at, or some community libraries also allow it, but those really differ based on the community.
That's perfect. Thank you. I know at Legal Services, we do also support the self-help clinics. So if you do have documents, you feel free to go to those self-help clinics to be able to assist you a little bit further with documents that you're filling out. Thank you for that. The next one we have is for Pastor Sue. It says, Pastor Sue, you mentioned that there are daily hot meals people can get in the Moorhead area. What were the details for the place and time for those community meals again?
Yeah, thank you. So the community meals are available at Micah's Mission, 1901 First Avenue North. Lunch is served Monday through Friday at noon. Dinner is served Monday through Friday at 5:30. On Saturday and Sunday, brunch is served at 10 a.m. and dinner is served at 5:30.
Perfect. Thank you for that. We have another question. This one is for Chelsea, and I'm trying to rotate them, so just so you know. One for Chelsea. So you mentioned that you mentioned that you work closely with DHS, but how does one apply for services if they are not in the system currently?
So you can actually reach out directly to Oak Tree Support Services. You can connect with us through our website or also through referrals at oaktreeservices.com. So either way, and we can help get you connected. And if we're not the provider for you, we can also give you a list of providers that are in your area if you're looking for someone that is closer and can give more of that 40 plus in-person direct contact as well. So you can contact us directly. You can also go through on DHS. There is a list of providers you can find, but we're happy to, our goal is just to get people connected with the service. So as long as you let us know where they are and what they're looking for, we can make sure we get you connected.
Perfect. Perfect. That sounds good. We have a message that came in for Pastor Sue. Do you accept volunteers and how does that process go?
We do accept volunteers. And so our volunteer coordinator is a gentleman named Charlie Paris, and his email is charliep at churches-united.org. And he can connect you with volunteers. We accept volunteers at the food pantries. We always need volunteers for preparing and serving meals at Micah's Mission. We're accepting some volunteers now at the Dorothy Day House for the assistance with preparing and serving meals. We often need volunteers for special projects like sorting donations or getting things organized in our newly renovated space. And so if you're interested in volunteering, please reach out to Charlie. Also know that if you're volunteering at a capacity that involves one-to-one connection with families or children, we do require a background check for that.
I would say that's the best and safest route to go. So that's a good thing. Okay, we have another one in the chat and it looks like it might be our last question here. It's for Chelsea. If someone is searching for housing in Minnesota, but does not currently reside in Minnesota, would they potentially qualify for assistance?
They unfortunately would not. If they, well, I should clarify, if they are active on MA, they would. So if they are outside of Minnesota for 30 plus days, they will go inactive with MA and they would not be eligible for services. If they live in Minnesota and they're looking to reside outside of Minnesota, we can assist them with moving out of state, getting everything set up and transferred in the new state. We cannot take them across state lines to tour properties or anything like that or facilitate the move, but we can help them get to a new state. We just can't help them to get here unless they are already, they've been gone for under that 30-day mark.
Perfect. Did anyone else have any other questions or things that they would like to say? Let's see. Oh, I think we have one more. For Chelsea, does Oak Tree have a Moorhead office or brochures, flyers that could be shared at the public library? I'd love to share more with patrons.
Yes, we do. We do not have a Moorhead office. I do have someone that resides out in Moorhead, and she actually has flyers and brochures. So I can, if you want to send me over your email address, I can connect her directly with you and she can bring brochures out to you. Otherwise, I can mail them directly to you as well if you want to give me your address. No problem at all.
That sounds great. So I am going to, before I do that, any final questions or thoughts? We had a lot of great questions so far. In the chat, you'll see some of the questions and you'll also see some people that have provided some links for Homeline and such, and Law Help MN, which is an amazing resource as well. So I wanted to make sure that I allowed you guys to go into that chat to see that. And I also do have, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the contact information for all of our guests here today. If you guys can see that, so we do have Legal Services of Northwest Minnesota. There is the the web address and email address for Churches United and Oak Tree Support Services. I wanted to thank everybody for being able to come in today, talk a little bit about housing in Minnesota. Our next meeting will be in February. I believe it's February 20th, but make sure to go on our Facebook or Twitter or Instagram for more information on that. And that one will be on housing and third-party custody. So that one will be a really great one too. We'll have some really great providers. And we always try to encourage all of our community partners from all around the Minnesota region to come in to our broadcast. So if you know of an organization that you're like, hey, you know what, they have some really great information that should be passed on, and it ties into some of the civil legal issues that we're dealing with, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is not on there, but I can definitely send that out to all of the people that are participating today. Our video will also be on our YouTube channel, and I will post that on our Facebook and our website so that if you have people in your organization that would like to be able to get some of the information from today, they will have that ability to do so. I also wanted to thank all of our guests today for coming in, and I appreciate everything that you're doing at your organizations. Please feel free to give me a call and let me know if there's anything else that I can do. If you're looking for presentations, feel free to also contact me. We do have different civil legal issues that we talk about that we're able to have attorneys come to your organizations and present, or we can do those virtually as well. Again, thank you so much for attending. If you have questions, please feel free to email me after this. Thank you again, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.